Welcome back to the home build. Today we're going to talk about some rough electrical that's happening in our home build. So the rough mechanical contractor, they've already completed their work. It actually got passed and is good to go. But there's some things I just kind of want to show you for design of where they're running their wires, what size wires and why. I'm not an electrician. I want you to understand that. I'm a carpenter. I am the homeowner. So later on, I'm also going to be adding on a whole bunch more electrical for lights and that sort of thing. So that, stay tuned to that. That'll be another video. But this portion of the home build is the rough electrical that the electricians did. So for this 2,700 square foot house, I elected to bring in 400 amps of power. So I ran all that conduit, and we're going to be, another video is also going to be pulling and bringing in the main power to the meter. So behind the panel here in the garage is our meter where it feeds in, and the main power comes in this direction. We're gonna have two panels. One's gonna have a 200 amp service and the other is gonna have a 200 amp service. Okay, bring it in just like this. Making sure you have proper grounding. So here's a grounding rod going to the foundation, and it's all tied into the rebar of all of the foundation. This main power coming in here for any sheetrock that screws into it, making sure you have a protection plate so no nails or any of that sort of thing can get nailed into this and having somebody electrocuted. So currently, all the home runs, which is what this is, going either to the furnace, the stove, the oven, all that sort of thing, and all the lights and outlets, they all are coming in feeding these two panels. They're not going to put in all the breakers until the trim out phase. So that's later on. But what they did give me is a breaker for the furnace, so that once I bring in power, I can get that turned on, and during the sheetrock phase, it'll help dry it out and that sort of thing. So they have that, as well as a breaker for the garage. So we got a construction outlet here, and I think they were telling me they were going to put one somewhere else that they haven't put it on yet, which is over there. So this one, if I was to elect to get away and do away with the main temp power, so I have a temp power pole on the edge of the property, and right now that's kind of feeding all the temporary construction electrical needs. If I did away with that, they got to have power, so this is going to be their source of their power when we bring in the power. That's going to be in a couple weeks. So other than that, there's going to be another outlet here and that sort of thing. So following all these lines, there's a whole nest of wires going back and forth. So for lights and outlets for the house, 14.2 is the gauge of wire, 14 gauge wire, two main wires, a hot and a cold, or a hot and a neutral. So that's what the white wire is. If you're wondering what the yellow is, that's a 12 gauge for a 20 amp service. So 20 amp breakers here. That's going to feed things like the laundry room outlets, the garage outlets, the bathroom outlets that get GFCIs. So like bathrooms and laundries, you're going to be running like blow dryers, hair dryers, that sort of thing. So they're pulling more amps, and 14 gauge wire is just not enough. 14 gauge, which is what this white is, and it'll actually say it in certain spots, and it'll tell you what it is, whether it's a 14.2 and that sort of thing. Goes to it will eventually go to 15 amp breakers. 20 amp breakers are made for 12 gauge wire. Don't swap those. Okay, you could use 12 gauge wire and a lower amp breaker, but you can't flip that. 14.2 or 14.2 wire or 14.3 or and that sort of thing. 14 gauge wire cannot be anything above a 15 amp breaker though. The 10 gauge wire right here. That is going to be for a 30 amp breaker for your ovens and that sort of thing. So what that is, it's a orange colored wiring and that sort of thing. All right, so you can see from behind me here is the meter where the main power is coming in. Ideally it would be in the concrete coming up and all hidden, that sort of thing. You know, all those sorts of details, a little more work, a little more cost, it all adds up. And for this home, we elected to have it right here. It's not on the front of the house. That was originally where it would come in at. So we elected to have it over here on the side of the garage. It looks better, or a little bit better, I should say. But it all gets sealed up and around. So it's gonna get caulking up and around. And they did pretty tight where their siding is, which I'm pretty happy with. So that'll get a good caulk job. It's gonna have sconces over here where the wire just coming through. Eventually for those are gonna get cut out for a box to go into, so it's recessed in. It'll get caulked real well, and then that way it'll have a lower profile for a light fixture. Down here, later on, I'm going to be bringing in power to this outlet. I added an outlet on this side of the house so the garage door can be down and I still have access to power without having cords going underneath the garage door. All of these right here for future, except for one runs over to our septic over there. So we got a septic. I already have it pre-planned it way in advance. It's already running over to it. It's ready to go. And this over here is going to be for cable TV. Out here we could elect to have satellite and that sort of thing, but it's just not as good as cable TV. So another thing that the electricians are bringing in, we're here in the garage. It's going to eventually have a garage door opener. So they bring in the sensors going over down to here. So stuff like that. Notice that their wiring goes straight and then branches off. It doesn't come a direct path over here, over there. The part of the reason it looks neat and tidy. The other is it's less likely to get stepped on when somebody's up there doing the insulation, that sort of thing. Yes, I want to see about possibly insulating the roof of the garage, the walls of the garage. I'm not going to use this as a livable space, but when I'm out here working, this will be my gym out here. I don't want it freezing cold or freezing or really hot. So I want to be able to, and it's more for heat. Right now it's really cold. I might want to put in a little heater in here, a 220 heater to keep it at a good temperature. I'm gonna have my freezer, my refrigerator, to want them getting too cold either, and as well as too hot either, and that sort of thing. So from here, all these home runs are going to certain spots. Notice that they're straight, they're neat, they're tidy, and where they enter and where they're going. So from the source, the switch of the lights and the outlets, what they call a home run is where it goes from there, feeding back to the breaker. Okay, everything that we're gonna have here, besides the outlets, all the light fixtures are gonna be LED. So a low wattage, so you can have more lights per 12 gauge wire. So it'll be able to handle more. So you can have a room like this. So here, all these lights, there'll be 4 can lights in here, as well as whether or not we have a future fan, or I just do away with that and just have those cans lights. I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm leaning towards getting rid of that light and turn it into a source for the can lights. I like the look of can lights instead of a bulb right there. So, but anyhow, only 4. This could feed the living room, the dining room, office, all on the same breaker, coming back to the same breaker. So it doesn't need a whole lot. We're gonna have a light going to a switch, excuse me, it's gonna be right over there for this little hallway right here. And so it's gonna continue. The main power is gonna come in and go to a light switch, back up to that light switch, back up, and then to another one, kind of leapfrogging from one to the other, and they'll all be on the same breaker for lights. All right, so lighting out here in the kitchen, they have can lights, which I don't really care for that type of can light anymore. I prefer one that doesn't have a can and you just slide in. That would be by code. Everywhere else that I add lights will be like that. I'll run the wire to it. They'll put sheetrock on, then I'll come later and cut it out and install it. A little bit more work during the trim out for me. So the electricians like these cans. It's a little more expensive. They tie it all in now. Later on during the trim out, it's less work. It's a 6-inch can. It will look the same as the others, but just a different application. But all the wiring will have to go into some sort of box, just like it is up there. So the other style that I'm gonna put in will tie into a box or as well. So how it's shown here on the plans, you can see here is that is a can light. That's what that symbol is. There's a legend over here that tells you all the different symbols. So can lights, it's a little bit different orientation. I have two over here and kind of different over there. So we got two. I'm also gonna have a light where the hood's gonna go, so I don't need necessarily one directly over the stove because the hood vent will have one. So we got two lights there, two lights over the island, one over there, or excuse me, well, we got one in the corner and the continuation one, so that one's shining in front of the microwave and that sort of thing. I might elect to have two more over here or one more, we'll see. If we want to drop down lights, that sort of thing over here in front of this island, we'll have to see what we decide about that. But we do have lights where the sink is going to go, so adequate light. I might want something to think about for lighting when you're doing dishes, that sort of thing. You don't want the light behind you, you want the light kind of in front of you to be able to see what you're doing. So I might put two more in here. They'll be on a separate switch, separate from those. Those are all tied in together, I do believe, which I'd rather have certain ones, those three separate from these two, but I don't think that's the case here. Two more out here separate, and those can light up in front of somebody, let's say, doing the dishes right here. So those are kind of to the sides, doing a fairly good job, but it's still kind of a shadow line right in here where you're doing dishes and that sort of thing. So we'll see. That'll be something I'm planning on anyhow. Up here, so I wonder what that is. That is a smoke detector. So by code, got to have smoke detectors throughout, not the bathrooms though, because of moisture and that sort of thing. But they're all tied in. So when one alarm goes off that say smoke or something's happening in another room, they all go off to wake you all up. Those, do not disengage those. That's super important. The last thing you want is smoke to be happening in a bedroom and ends up burning the house down with you in it, and because you disengage that function. So do not, that's important. By code, all new construction has to have it, and that sort of thing. So this other wire here is feeding our heat pump on the outside, putting power out to it. And from there, we're gonna go into the office, outlets, go into one light. I'm gonna bring in 4 more lights, can lights, 2 other switches. Since I'm the homeowner, electrician went through, did their work. Now I pulled another permit for additional light fixtures, switches, outlets, and things like that you'll see later on in a separate video. And I'm gonna put more additional stuff into the area. So, but I can't tie into their system. That is a requirement of theirs, their license. They want to keep it separate for warranty type issues. So I'll have separate boxes to go into that are all on a separate circuit. All right, now we're up on the second floor. We got a 3-gang box right here. One goes to the light over the stairwell. Another switch is gonna go right up here into this hallway, so right here. Okay, and another switch is gonna feed this bonus room. So this bonus room, I'm eventually gonna have more lights in here. I don't like one single light, and I like can lights better. So it'll be 4 in here, and they're gonna be another double gang switch, probably right in this area right here. One switch for each pair. Might end up doing a triple now that I think about it, because I got sconces that I want to put in here, going to a switch. So I turn it on, turn it off, or even maybe have a motion detector on it, so it just turns on when you walk down, especially at night. So other than that, so we got smoke detector up here. We have cable going down through here. That's what that back black wire is, and that cable goes and feeds the master. It's kind of a long loop for it, surprisingly. And notice that it's not stapled tightly. You don't want to pinch that. You don't want to kink it. You don't, that sort of thing. So that's important when it comes to that wire. You can see it up there. It's nice and loose, feeding down to the living room downstairs. And then we got another one, should be going right over here for cable TV for the TV, because we want our TV right in this area for us. That way we're gonna have a couch over here facing the stairwell. So when you walk up the stairs, you're not looking at the back of somebody's head. You're looking at them and they're looking at the TV area. So that's where that's gonna be. It's our TV. I'm gonna bring in Ethernet and that sort of thing to feed that, as well as maybe, we'll see, another box up here so I can go straight down. And what you can do is do a tube, like a elephant trunk kind of thing, flexible tube that goes from here straight to that box. So later on I can just fish wire, Ethernet, that sort of thing directly to it. And that's a great way to not have to put in the wire first, but you can do it later and have access to it later, such as HDMI cables and whatever else. There's a whole lot of things that you can do. So how they run all of their wiring, they're trying to keep it neat. It's stapled on each joist, okay, where the rafters are. So that sort of thing, run power up and over, feed in another room. Pretty interesting. Excuse me, not a room, but the bathroom downstairs. So we'll take a look at that. Got outlets. Outlets got to be in certain distances, so within 10 feet of one another. So if you're running a vacuum and that sort of thing, there's always options to plug in. So fair amount here. Each wall is going to have an outlet in here. So we got one over there. Plenty of outlets, plenty for power. Switch for this bedroom, going to a fan or a light switch up there. So there is going to also power, I'd have to find it, going to the furnace. And that might be feeding from down, oh, there we go, right here. Here's for electric furnace. Not sure what gauge wire that is. That might be like a 6 gauge wire feeding up into it. So it's going to be a higher amp or a higher wattage. It's pulling more, so it needs a bigger amp breaker and that sort of thing. 60 amp service. So none of that's really hooked up quite yet. Doesn't have the unit on the outside, but bringing in power. Another thing, sheetrock. Got to have that sheetrock for this unit in place first. Of course, you can't get it really tucked in effectively after this unit's in, so they already went ahead and put it in. So something that I did on my own, I wanted to think about, is I ran sleeves. So we got the attic right here. I ran a sleeve going into the other attic on the other side, as well as from the attic all the way down to the crawl space. So if later on I wanted to run power from the panel, which is down that direction, up here for solar panels, adding who knows what, I have a sleeve, have options to run without having to go on the outside of the house. So there's not really a good spot to be able to run down. I might be able to snake something down through here, but that area should get sealed up really well so that if fire was up there, it can't go down this chase. So this will have to get sealed up, and of course blown insulation will be in everywhere. Having that as an option, ideally it would be closer over here to the access, but that was the best place that I could find at the time. So all right, another thing, elevation for our outlets. You can see right here, 16 inches up to the top for an outlet. For a light switch, I'll show you that. At 48 inches right there to the top. It's a good ergonomical height. And I like that word, ergonomic. But anyhow, so 16 inches for the outlets down there. Light switch, we're gonna go down below, show you locations for the outlets that are gonna be above the cabinets. So you can see those as far as that goes. I believe those are at 48 inches as well. Let's double check that. Yep, 48 inches, that'll get you above the countertop, above the backsplash, if it was a low profile backsplash. In the garage is going to be a little different. In the laundry room there on the other side. So here's the laundry room. Here's a dryer. We got 3 feet to that. Double gang box for a bigger plug-in to plug into it. I like that. And that sort of thing. So if we were to go back out to the garage, I'll show you the heights of that. It doesn't make sense to have an outlet way down low in a garage. It'll never get used. It should be at a working height. So in this case, it's kind of neat where I can still walk through the studs. I'm bionic walking through the outlets. Hey! For locations for the heights of the outlets in the garage, you can see there's 48 inches and that sort of thing. So that's kind of it for this rough-in phase. There is going to be power that still needs to, I might end up electing to run power to the gas water heater. So if I ever wanted to switch that out to electric, we'd have that as an option. But as you can see, it would be a pretty quick, easy jump to change that out later. Well, that's it for the rough electrical. Stay tuned. We got more to come for some added electrical, 220 outlets for electric cars, more light fixtures, more outlets here in the garage, that sort of thing, and as well as security lights on the outside. So stay tuned for the next video. Other than that, that's a wrap for this video on rough electrical. It's been passed. It's been grounded, that sort of thing. We got cable coming in. So it's a good start. I'm gonna add to it. So like always, be safe out there. I always recommend have an electrician. If you don't know anything about this, have an electrician do it. They know what to do. They know the codes. It should be inspected. So protect your home, protect yourself, hire a contractor, licensed contractor that knows what's going on. So I'm Corey Rogers. This is The Home Build, and I love having you. Like always, be safe out there.